You tell me when we're live. Take 4. Little technical difficulties. People got heated before.
It's not loading. You know we're live.
Are we live?
Yeah, it's live.
Alrighty. Welcome to Nightmare 365 podcast, case file 33, the Loch Ness Monster, or Nessie, as it's called in Scottish folklore.
Scottish folklore, the loch, meaning lake. So, G, were you the one who brought this topic up?
I don't think so. I think you were.
I was the one?
Yeah.
I thought you saw a couple articles recently.
Well, recently there was a couple things in the news over in the UK, what the government will do if they actually capture or kill the monster, Loch Ness.
Yeah, this was something that went back for a number of years, right? When I was reading it, I pulled it up in, we'll share it in the show notes from the BBC News. Yeah,
BBC?
What happens if someone catches a Loch Ness Monster? They would just treat it just like any endangered species, which I think is funny.
Yeah, but how do they know if it's endangered if no one's really like... There could be hundreds of thousands of these.
Well, maybe it wasn't endangered, but like a protected new species or something like that.
Protected new species.
Well, they're always finding stuff, you know?
Well, they are finding stuff.
But it's pretty cool.
This, I think, it really got popular in 1933, like between August and December of 1933, when it became more popular, or the first photographs of it came out in the public view in December of 1933.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if you believe those photographs.
Well, the first one that you're referring to in 33 was like a really blurry thing, and people discounted it as saying it was like a dog.
Yeah. Yeah,
a dog carrying a stick or something.
Yeah.
Just weird.
Which I don't know. Some of these things that I was looking up and I was watching about the Loch Ness, it is plausible that something huge could live in that lake just because the lake is so like long and massive, and it does connect to the sea. But it is a freshwater lake.
It is.
So,
well, let's talk about jumping back a little bit. We'll get into the Loch Ness Monster.
Okay.
Well, what do you think about all the stuff that we've been doing? Like Weekday Weirds, how do you think that's been going, man? We've been getting a decent response from it.
I like the Weekday Weirds.
Do you think the fans listening now?
I like DB Cooper.
DB Cooper was your favorite?
Even though I don't think that was the guy.
Robert Rackstraw.
Yeah, I don't believe that.
We know who your guy is.
Kenny Christensen, my boy.
Yeah, why is he your boy?
Because I just think he did it. Out of all the evidence and all like the stuff that we read and wrote and watched, I think Kenny did it.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring it up just to see how like everybody.
I'm excited for this next one.
Well, I've been what, the Golden State Killer?
Yeah,
it is a good one. You were the one who brought that one up, I
brought up the other one.
Oh,
we talked about the icebox.
The icebox.
The icebox.
So we got
not the Little Giants icebox.
So we got a couple coming up, which is kind of cool. I just wanted to throw it out there just to see if everybody listening, you know, the regular podcast have been getting really good downloads, but and I kind of threw in the Weekday Weirds as well.
Yeah, you can find them on the YouTube and as well as the iTunes or wherever you download your
podcast. I just didn't want to like throw them in there and say like, oh, here. I mean, I guess it's just more content, but and you could listen to us because we're not doing a podcast pretty much every week. It's almost like when we have time.
Yeah, and the Weekday Weirds are going to come out every Wednesday. Yeah, and those are short, like probably 10 minutes or less.
Yeah, they've been getting great downloads, so I just wanted to throw it out there and see how you thought it was going. See if we have some fans. Write us, if you have any Weekday Weirds for us or any like.
I did get one submission.
For what?
The couple that shot at the fireflies.
Oh yeah.
But you can't really do a whole episode about that.
That could just be a Weekday Weird, right?
I mean, they were shooting at lightning bugs because they thought they were aliens.
That's pretty weird.
They're probably on drugs. I don't know.
That's really weird. Maybe not a whole Weekday Weird or a podcast on that, but we can mention that. Where was that article? Where did you see that?
It was on Facebook. I don't know what news channel it was who did this.
Were they
story.
shooting guns?
Yes.
They were shooting guns?
Yes. A guy who was 30, his girlfriend was 22. They were shooting guns into the air.
At fireflies.
Because they thought they were aliens. And then ran into a nearby house. And the cops were called, obviously. They got arrested.
I'm sure they were pretty drunk or high or on some type of drug. That's pretty funny. Yeah, I just wanted to just mention it and see, if any feedback is welcome. So you could always give us a shout out. All of our information is at nightmare365.com.
Thank you for listening.
Yep. Tune in next week.
Yeah.
See you later. No, so yeah, just subscribe to our YouTube channel. Give us a review on iTunes if you enjoyed this. And we're going to keep the weekday weirds going every Wednesday, like Greg said.
And if you don't enjoy us, leave us a review and let us know how we can do better.
And now for our intro. Greg loves this intro. Welcome to Nightmare 365.
This is the center of weirdness for the entire planet.
There's tons of unsolved mysteries out there. Witches still exist.
What about monsters?
Do you believe in ghosts?
Bigfoot is not out there.
Bigfoot is definitely out there. UFOs are real.
UFOs might be real.
Do you believe in conspiracies?
I consider myself a conspiracy theorist.
I want to believe in all these case files.
Trust no one. The government lies to you.
We're just two brothers exploring the unexplained, mysterious, and spookiness that lives among us. So let's get back into it, man. The Loch Ness Monster.
Nessie,
as it's called, referred to.
I didn't know about this, though, but doing a bunch of research on it, that there's an actual roller coaster ride in Busch Gardens, Virginia.
Called Loch Ness?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
And it's been in a bunch of films, too.
Where did you find this?
On Loch Ness, if you look up Loch Ness, they have a roller coaster.
That's funny.
Is
there one anywhere else?
No, that was the only one.
Huh.
And then a bunch of movies, obviously. Most notably, probably Monsters, Inc. and Napoleon Dynamite. In the beginning of Napoleon Dynamite, he was given a presentation in one of his classes about the Loch Ness.
He had. I do remember that, but I haven't seen that movie in a long time. Yeah, I was trying to find some decent movies. The History Channel had something. There was a bunch of documentaries on it.
Yeah.
There hasn't, like you were saying before we started doing that, there hasn't been recent sightings. I think the last big recent sighting, I guess you could say, was in 2011.
Yeah, and there was a whole paranormal scientist did a research, try to find, they tried to do an expedition to find Loch Ness in the 80s.
Yeah, that was Operation Deep Scan.
Yeah, and they couldn't find anything.
Yeah,
but prior to that, in the 60s and 70s, they did find radar traces, sonar traces of something big down there.
Yeah, what I really want to talk about today too, we'll give you, we've been talking about Loch Ness and some of the history, but there's a couple questions that I have that when I was listening, because I actually downloaded a couple of podcasts on Loch Ness.
Yeah,
some of them were really awful.
Very
The
British
dry.
accent.
Well, there was one from that area, obviously, just because where it's from.
Yeah, Scotland.
Scotland in the Highlands and Loch Ness. Because when people just say Loch Ness,
they think of the monster.
That's all I think about. But that's what the lake is actually called.
Correct.
And it's just the loch meaning lake, Lake Ness.
Yep.
And it's just I don't know. Ever since a little kid, I remember, and this is going way back, man, way back when we were in our old school, old town. And I think it was in third, maybe second grade. I think it was third. But I remember this book. I think I talked about it on the JFK episode that we did. Mm-hmm. But there was this book I'll never forget because it stood out. And it was that brown hardcover book. It was thin.
Okay.
But I remember the three things. The JFK. Mm-hmm. I saw his head, explode. The pictures in the book. And then Bigfoot and Loch Ness.
Those are
the three things that I remember from the book. I think the cover was that Gimlin Patterson footage where they had the actual Bigfoot on the cover walking.
Yeah.
And I just remember reading that and being hooked. And that was such a young age to think about when I was in third grade to kind of remember this. I remember really in elementary school, I remember seeing this in the library. I could still picture it today. I don't know why, but I remember reading about Loch Ness and being like, this is the coolest thing ever, you know, along with Bigfoot.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool to think about like an old like creature or like an ancient creature like living that really you never see very rarely.
Yeah, we were talking about this, you know, even on our like shark episode, you know,
I mean,
about
look at
Jaws or anything else.
Look at they just found the megalodon. Like they just like, you know, not like found it, but like spotted it and actually like videoed it for like the first time like not too long ago.
I didn't hear it.
Which they thought it was extinct. Well, like it shows like the dorsal fin and like the tail fin.
Uh-huh.
And it shows it how far it's spaced out, and like they did the measurements, and it would have to be like 60 feet long.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't even see any of this stuff.
You were taking a shower. I was looking up on YouTube.
Yo, you gotta pass this along to me.
You were in the shower.
No, but that stuff is kind of cool because even like this creature, like the Loch Ness Monster, right? You know, it's described as having that long neck,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the hump that comes out of the water, protruding from the water, stuff like that. Its body type, I guess, is really long.
Yeah, almost like a snake type deal.
Yeah, and it was...
And it doesn't have arms. It has like
I guess
like fins or whatever.
Yeah, and the
on
most...
the side.
It almost looks like a seal, elongated, right?
Yeah,
the best
with a giraffe type neck.
Right. That's they commonly refer to it, I guess, as a plesiosaur.
Mm-hmm.
If you look it up and, you know, actually see some pictures, it was, you know, the dinosaur that's used to exist, and people think that it may still exist.
Yeah, like you look at Jurassic Park or Jurassic World, pick one, where like the tall one that eats like the tops of the trees. That's what the head looks like.
Yeah. And which I thought was fascinating, like you said, like it really became popular in the 30s. I mean, that's
Correct.
when it really just, you know, came to, I guess, light almost.
Yeah, like mainstream media picked it up because the one guy took a photograph in December.
Yeah, and that's what we were talking about. But people, you know, poo-pooed away or whatever they want. They're saying it's like the dog in the water splashing around because it's very blurry. So I don't know. I mean, 1933, you think of the technology and now the technology that we have today. But one of the earliest sightings or, you know, written documentation of something in the loch comes from the 16th century, which I thought was really interesting. So here's my thing, right? If it goes back that far into the 6th century AD, where it was written in the life of Saint Columba, and I don't know, just thinking about like what they may have saw. Could it have been like an animal that did exist at one point, now it's dead to us? Or
well, that's what some people theorize, that it did exist. Now it couldn't adapt to either the food source or global warming. Well, there's a lot of theories about that, like that it died. That's why you haven't seen it in a while.
Yeah, this loch it's cold, right? It's really cold water. So they're trying to say like if there's something that really does exist in there, like some type of mammal, they would need some type of warm water.
Yeah.
And supposedly there's not a big food source in there.
No, there's not.
So,
which is surprising because how big the lake is.
Yeah, it's about what, a mile?
Yep.
Or two wide.
Correct.
And I forget how far does it stretch?
Well, it stretches pretty much half the country to go out to sea. Well, it connects to other like rivers and like
other lakes too.
Other lakes, and it connects out to the sea.
Yeah, I mean it's a huge lake and it's one of the biggest in like that area.
Correct.
So that was interesting to see that from I guess any kind of practical standpoint. If you're saying there is a monster in there, but here's another thing, and we were talking about this before about how there's other monsters in others lakes. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we go to a lake every summer.
There's monsters in that fucking lake.
You think there is?
We caught one that night.
That was an eel.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of people that say this is an eel too, like just a big eel.
Well, yeah, like what I was looking at too is a lot of the scientists theorize that it's just misidentified as like a couple different animals or things, like a floating log, or like when people see the ripples and no boats are around, they think it's like a bird, you know, just scooped up on the lake, or, you know, other type of big fish or eels or anything like that.
Yeah, there's this guy who's a psychologist who talks about how like the eye sees what it wants to see and people expect things. And when you hear constant stories, and they do like boat tours, like the Loch Ness Monster, like boat tours around the lake.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it's a huge tourist attraction.
Which is great.
Like, getting back to like you saying like the eye sees like shapes or sizes or like things what it wants to see. Like look at the the moon on Mars, right? When they thought they saw like that face shaped on Mars.
Oh yeah, it looked like the Jason mask.
Yeah, it looked like a Jason mask, or like when they see like pyramids on other. I think your eye just
Well, it's
like looks at a shape and tries to like decipher it and like make it look like what you're used to seeing.
Well, it's the same thing with faces, right? When you see anything, you kind of try to picture it as a face, almost, which it's possible, right? And this one, I would say this case file is kind of weird, just because you can go in many different directions with this. And like we said, I would say what fascinates me the most and what I always had questions about is, do you think it's almost like a game of telephone where it just gets passed through so many people that people ended up just believing this?
I do, just for the simple fact that the first like mainstream reports were in August of 1933, right? And then 3 months later, a photograph was taken, the first photograph.
Yeah, well, this
like,
one,
come on.
This one I really want to talk about. I want to discuss like this whole the photograph from 1934.
Okay.
Because you talked about Hugh Gray's photograph in 1933, which is the first photograph kind of depicts the monster.
Yes.
Which, if you look at it, slightly blurred, and then people said it was a dog, like we said. But the photograph in April of 1934, which is known as the surgeon's photo. That's the photo I remember seeing in the book.
Yeah, the grainy one with the head sticking out, yeah.
Well, I mean, I'll pull it up too, but, you know, if you're watching, and this is exactly what it looks like.
For your viewing pleasure.
Yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, you could see it. But anyway, this is the photo that was taken. And this whole photograph, just if we talk about this for a second,
okay,
there's a lot that goes into this, right? Because it's known as a surgeon's photograph. And in 1975, this photograph was proven to be a fake.
Correct.
You know, because the people that had their hand into this came out and said, well, not them, because they were actually dead at the time, but, you know, people in their family, not just one, but multiple people came out and said, all right, what happened was when this first went out, because this was in the Daily Mail. Let me find it. And when it came up, they found out that it was kind of like, all right, this guy that's behind it, you know, they kind of smeared his name because he was, prior to this, we'll backtrack a little bit. This guy, I guess, heard that there was footprints and stuff, just like Bigfoot, right? People make casts and everything. So this guy went out, supposedly, and found these footprints. Some believe that he did the cast themselves, but it was almost like an ashtray, right? The ashtray was like a hippo footprint. So he took these cast prints, gave them to the newspaper, told them he was going to find like Loch Ness and break the case open. And when they found out, like, all right, there was some sketchy stuff around these footprints, they kind of retracted the story and kind of slandered this guy's name.
Yep.
Mama Duke, that was the guy's name, right? And so this guy was pissed off that they kind of slandered his name.
Yeah, I would be too.
So he said, all right, I can't submit any more photographs or any more evidence, but if we set something up with a couple of friends, we go down the lake, take some pictures, or tell this guy to go take pictures in this area because we think, you know, Loch Ness has been seen.
Yeah, and stage something there, yeah.
Yeah, which this guy did, and that's why I was like, so this gentleman...
Which this is the most famous photograph people think of the Loch Ness.
Which I wanted to talk about this because, all right, think about when it was disproven, right? Because we know it was proven in 1975 that this was a fake.
Yes.
So for how long? From
40 years, basically.
From 1934 to 1975. But the story really didn't get much play until 1994.
Correct.
So like another 20 years goes by.
Which see, that always boggles my mind of like, why isn't stories like get picked up? Like, you always hear of the stories like when it first comes out, like, oh, look, we've captured the Loch Ness Monster. But then once it's found out it's a hoax, it's really put like on the back page and you really don't find out about it.
Which that's what's fascinating me.
Which kind of pisses me off.
Because I think it was around the time in the 90s.
You read that book?
I read the book, and I didn't know. Like, no one said, oh, this is, you know, fake. It's been proven fake for a long time. So I'm growing up and be like, holy shit, there's a Loch Ness Monster.
Just like the Bigfoot video.
Right. And I'm just like, holy cow, man, this is great. But it's already been proven. But even if you look at it today, right, with documentaries, podcasts, or anything,
They always show this
they
photo.
always show this photo. They are always talking about this photo as like the coup de grace. This is like the evidence that we need.
But it's fake.
And yeah, if you look at the story, right, it was proven fake in 1975. The creature was reportedly a toy submarine built by Christensen and the son of Marmaduke.
Which is pretty like crazy. Like you'd build this thing just to clear your name.
Well, it was almost like, all right, if somebody wrote a story about you, you know, kind of slandering your name, you're like, you know what, these mother effers.
Yeah, I get that.
You
Like
know.
I would want to try to do everything I could.
Yeah,
but
so they said, might as well, like, let's act our revenge. And from the stories that if you hear about this, right, the guys that were supposedly, you know, in on it, because they had the toy submarine and they taped, like, they cut like a dinosaur head.
Correct.
You know, like you were referring to, that kind of
Because that's what it
dinosaur.
looks like.
Yeah, and they put it together. And supposedly this has never been found. Like, I guess there was other people in the area, so the one guy stepped on it, and like the thing sunk or like broke apart and then like drifted away, and they never found it.
Well, it's deep, so you ain't gonna find that.
That'd be awesome though to find that, like if that was truly it.
This almost looks like one of those lake toys where you just like ride on.
Well, can't you look? Well, if you look at the picture too, logically, right? Looking at it now, like there's such small ripples, you know. And then they said that this photograph was cropped a little bit.
Yeah.
So if you like zoomed out, you could like actually see some of the shoreline. And then also what it really looked like to me at first when I was younger, I thought it was somebody like swimming and their arms were just coming out.
I mean,
know?
it kind of does look like that. Yeah.
You
I
know,
can see
like,
that.
You could only see
'Cause
part
it's
of their
so
body.
blurry.
Yeah. I don't know this thing, and this is the whole.
What
This
it's
is all
based
we have
around.
to go around.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what kind of like.
Well, even if like you look at like Champ, like our U.S. version, there's always U.S. versions, or I'm sure
There
there's
is.
a Chinese version.
No, there
I'm
is.
Sure
There's
a
tons
Russian
of these
version.
monsters out there.
Like I'm sure there's, and every country has like their Loch Ness Monster or their Champ.
Well, that was the thing too, and it's not just this sighting. Like I pull it, like there's so many different things that if you actually pull it up, like the surgeon's photograph, I really wanted to, touch on just because this was a very polarizing image.
Yeah, that's
to
what
people,
everyone thinks about.
And even what I think about when I
don't know. I always think about like the Loch Ness Monster of like you see it like the ripples in the water, and you always see like the humps like going down. Like I always picture that. I don't really picture that photograph.
no.
No, I usually picture like the video evidence, not the photo. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I think the photo is like polarized, and I think that's what everyone thinks about. But
And this brings back to like another point, and just saying, if we're looking at this, incident and Loch Ness of being real or true, then why do we always come back to that photograph when there's been tons of like expeditions, searches, sightings, and it's the same thing where I brought up. And I really try to think, logically, all right, how does this many people, they just have it in their head? Like, because when I think of Loch Ness, the next word out of my mouth is monster.
all right, well let me put it to you this way. What do you think about when I say UFOs or aliens
Oh yeah, I just picture like X-Files type stuff. I watch,
or ET or like a flying saucer? Like, what do you think about like the flying like disc?
Yeah, like there's certain things that pop in your head, just like with this.
Yeah, with anything.
This is what gets me though, because if you look at some of the reports or like we'll talk about more of the misidentifications of it, but if you just type in on Wikipedia, there's tons of stuff out here, of just different types of sightings.
Correct.
And there's so many more to really go on. I mean,
the one that really
Google even did this.
Yeah, the one that really gets me is I think it was in the 70s when they tested out like the sonar equipment, and they found like the large hit. Like it was a massive like hit.
Yeah, I do. I'm trying to find that one. Wasn't the Dimsdale, because that one gets a decent amount of play, but that's not like the first thing that people think of. Where there was actually video evidence in the 60s.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was 1954.
1954. So yeah, 1954 they did the sonar readings, with the fishing boat.
Yeah, and a large object kept pacing like the boat. We're at a depth of 146 meters.
That's crazy.
Which is almost 500 feet down.
That's pretty deep. And
Like, could it be like an alligator or a crocodile or a shark or
It
like
could be, right?
anything like that? Maybe, but it's fresh water though.
Could
That's the
be,
only thing.
Could it be like a sunken tree or something at the moment?
Yeah, but then why would it be pacing the boat?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. And that's what I'm saying. Like with most of these things, there's probably like 99% you can call bullshit on. Right?
Correct, but there's
Just
that 1%.
that you have no explanation for, and that's what keeps the mystery alive.
Correct.
And
well, that's with like anything.
yeah, and this is where it gets back to it. Like, we had the surgeon's photograph, but everybody comes back to that, even though it's stupid. We know it's been proven fake.
Correct.
And then granted, maybe this family came out and said this just because, they wanted to. I don't know. I mean, I would rather keep the story going.
Yeah, and I would sell like books and stuff like that.
Yeah, but
I don't know. Try to monetize that.
Well, that's what I'm just saying. There's so many different things that you could look at to say, all right, this is real. From the Holmes video in 2007, where, they looked at it and said they couldn't really explain it. There was something fast moving. It was jet black. That was about 46 feet, 14 meters long.
It's a big eel.
Yeah, and they think it was an eel. But then the last one that we said that really came in, actually, no, we said 2011 was the last major sighting. I guess I was wrong, because there's a video from 2013. It's a 5-minute video of a mysterious wave in the loch. But like you said, there's
It could
boats.
be any number of things, man.
Yeah, there's boats moving, and people say there's an optical illusion with the waves. If you're looking at it from a low angle, it does look like humps, but it's really just a wake from the boat that was probably like now halfway down the river.
Yeah, that, or it could be any number of like species that live in and around the loch.
And yeah, see, I have no explanation for this, and there's always that 1% that you kind of can't.
Well,
discount.
that's with like any monster. There's always like one or whatever percentage you want to say that you can't explain, like Bigfoot. Has
True.
anyone really ever seen Bigfoot? People claim they have, but like, is there really like concrete proof besides like foot castings?
Well, that's the same thing with all this, right?
Correct.
With all these sightings, there's so many sightings, and that's what I'm saying. Like, is it just somebody that says, all right, when I hear Loch Ness, I hear monster, and now when I go to Loch Ness, anything that I see that's out of the ordinary
100%
is crazy.
Yeah, like just think about when you freak yourself out at home. I don't know if you ever do this. Like you're home
I
alone,
have.
right? Like it's deathly quiet. You and then you think about like whatever you think
Somebody's
about.
gonna break in.
Yeah,
and kill
somebody's
me.
gonna break in. You hear a noise. Like what do you normally? Oh shit! Somebody's breaking in the house.
Yeah.
So like I think it's a little bit of that. Like when you go to Loch Ness, you want to see the Loch Ness Monster. So like when you see, let's say, a log floating, it just goes underneath. Like that was Loch Ness Monster.
Well, yeah, I watched the thing. I think it was the Discovery Channel. Might have been the History Channel that put it out, where they did like this study where they put a piece of wood like just floating in, and they were just asking people, "Oh, what do you see?" And people are like, "Oh, it's a log." Most people said it was a log, but there was like this one kid that came running down. I thought it was Loch Ness.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh, but
So
it
then
turns
that
out to
story
be
gets blown up then.
yeah. And that just like that 1%, right? That 1% that maybe the other way, that's part of the 99% gets blown up, just like the surgeon's photograph.
Correct.
Whereas like some of the real information, like the Dimsdale, elder, video from 2013. You also have the Apple Maps photograph, which is kind of interesting. And then you have the Google Street View in 2015. So there is other stuff that you could actually, concrete say like, or we can't really explain.
Correct.
Where there's other stuff that you say this is complete
there
bullshit.
might be in like a totally different thing that's living in there that's undiscovered. Like they always think about like the Tasmanian tiger was like extinct, and
Yeah.
they recently found that. They recently found like photographs of it. Like they're always finding species that they thought were extinct or didn't exist.
Well, that's why
Even in like the ocean.
that's why I don't think I'll ever discount this completely. But I don't know if it's like a plesiosaur. Like that's pretty big.
It maybe is like a disinformed eel.
It could be, right? And it could swim like to the ocean. I don't know. With something like that, because they talk about being mammals, right? You would have to come up to get some air.
Sure.
So I think there would be more sightings, don't you think?
Yeah, but it's so expansive and so big that
it's like
one in the million chance that you're right there at the exact moment.
And
like think about a shooting star.
True. And I want to know, like, with this stuff, we talked about, like, the first major big sighting was in the 30s.
Yep.
And then from the 30s, like, you look at it, it's just piled on. But before that,
Nothing, really.
There was hardly anything besides, you had the 16th century, sighting or written about this, like monster. And then in the late 1800s, there was something. And then after that, it was nothing. And all of a sudden in the 30s, there was like report after report after report. So maybe it was just some type of like monster.
Like, don't we talk about that with like people like report ghosts or like say they've seen a ghost? Like they don't want to come out and say it, but then once somebody else does, it's okay. Is it, you think it's like that?
I would hope. I mean, yeah, I could totally see that because I guess
I don't want to admit I saw something. Maybe people think I'm crazy, but this guy did, and it's accepted, so I'm going to. I don't know.
Did you ever say, like if people talk to you, because I kind of get this a lot, when I tell people like that I'm into this stuff and then I do a podcast, they immediately start telling me stories.
No, I don't really get that.
Like, oh, what's that shirt you're wearing? Nightmare? What is that? Oh, it's just, and I explain it's my podcast, do this and that. And then people are like, oh shit, I have a ghost story. They're more apt to like open up, but I would have never found out otherwise.
True.
I
don't know. To me, like 99% of people, I think, make shit up.
Yeah, but
why? Something happens that they blow out of proportion.
I could see that more than anything else.
Like you're home alone, you hear something, you go check it out, and like something's moving, but maybe it was like something totally, like the heat kicked on,
unrelated,
but you think it's like, oh shit, it's a ghost. So maybe stuff like that happens all the time, or like people play up stuff in their head to be more than what it was.
I guess I just wish this shit happened to me. I wish like I saw something or...
I do too, but...
No, I want to look at it logically too, right? And I think that's what we both want to do. But at the same time, like you said, there's these types of monsters. This is just a theory of mine.
Bigfoot.
I said Bigfoot could live in the caves and stuff, but this is more plausible. Think about this, right? Because they're always doing in search ofs. They do Operation Deep Scan, all this other shit. Correct. There's a whole website dedicated to looking for Nessie. It's great.
Nessie.co.uk.
Yeah, so if you look that up, it's all about the deep scan. They have live webcams. Should we look up? I don't want to put like a plug-in or anything in here, but
which is amazing because people sit there at home watching this like they watch like Netflix.
I would put it on one night and just watch it. They have a Nessie diary, so you could look at people like reports, which I'll link this in the show notes.
Like,
for sure.
Look at how fake those look.
Yeah, but these are ducks.
Those aren't ducks.
Those aren't ducks?
They're ducks.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, so this is, I guess, Nessie. Yeah. See, if they had a photograph like this, and we're just on that nessie.co.uk.
Like, if you saw a webcam like that was streaming by, okay, it's plausible.
See, do you think that was like a boat, the 1955 photograph?
No, I don't.
You think this is something, or it's...
Yeah, I think it's probably something in the water. That doesn't look like a boat wake to me, because like if you think of boat wake, right, you think of a series of wakes.
Well, if you look at this, people point this out as being like the wake, and then this is like something that's like on the outside of that wake. I don't know.
I don't think so.
There's tons of pictures out there. Like I said, we're looking at the nessie.co.uk thing, and then we're at 1955, the Peter
McNabb
photograph. Who knows, right? By the Urchin Bay, he was sunbathing. You could see the castle on the side, and it looks like humps.
Yeah, it looks like three humps.
I could see what you're saying, where it does look more than just a wake. But then I, see this part.
Yeah, no, I see that part too. Yeah,
outer wake. Who knows, right? And then you have the stupid surgeon's photograph. That pisses me off because as a little kid, I really did believe this.
Yeah, well, Bigfoot got you, Nessie got you.
Well, here's my thing. Getting back to my point, with this, and we talked about this being such a big, expansive lake that goes into other lakes as far as, emptying out into the ocean. What if, because this is a part of the world that we really haven't explored. We always talk about going to space. We always talk about like other lands to go to.
Space Force now.
Space Force, all this other stupid shit that's going on. Mm-hmm. But think about like the ocean, how much we haven't explored. And think about
look how deep it is at some points.
Well, here's a plausibility. What if there's underwater caves
that connect with the goddamn caves again?
Well, that connect all this shit together.
What connect what?
I don't know. Maybe
Area 51 and Loch Ness.
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying like, all right, there's underwater caves that maybe these things survived, lived, and I don't know, some type of weird animal that we never discovered, and it pops up. It's just like surfaces. all right, here I'm gonna swim in this cave, and
No.
it pops up in Loch Ness.
No way.
And then nothing.
No.
Why not?
No.
That
There's no goddamn caves around the world.
How do you know? You've never been in the ocean and explored it as much as you.
Dude,
There's caves on land, right?
I know. I've been into one in New Mexico.
All right, so you've been in a cave,
That was pretty damn big.
so you can't say that's not plausible. What's in the news right now, where all those kids are trapped in the cave, right? So
That's totally different.
but I'm saying there's underwater caves that some type of creature. It may not be like a plesiosaur, right? I'm not saying that, but I'm saying like there is connections to different lakes.
Goddamn Bigfoot's riding the Loch Ness out of those caves.
When we went to when we stay in the Mousom Lake up in Maine, right?
Yeah.
If you go to that one part of the lake, there's just like this deep hole.
Which part?
You know, if you go to the big part,
Yeah.
the big lake, and you go all the way down, usually like that sandbar that's now closed.
Correct, yeah,
to
yeah.
The, you know, like the public,
Yeah.
the people bought the land.
Yeah.
And if you go to the left of that, there's like this little bridge.
Yeah, and you go underneath
And
there.
if you go underneath that.
Well, that's the spring where it's fed from.
Right. And I remember going back there. Were you with me or was I just with Dad? But I remember just looking into this hole and being like, holy shit.
That's what feeds the lake, though, the water.
Where does that come from?
I don't know, groundwater.
There you go. But I'm saying, like, I remember just looking into it. and
Anything come out of there?
I thought there could be, you know, like I thought, like, holy shit, there something could.
Would you
jump
dive? Like, all right, if you were a certified scuba,
Screw that. No way.
would you go in there?
No way.
Why not?
I don't know where it goes. I don't know how deep it is. I don't know if there's
upside
something
down.
in there. That's what I'm saying, man. Like, it used to freak me out to look at it because it was so clear and it was so shallow right there.
Yeah, that's true.
And then when I look in the hole,
It wasn't
just-
that big of a hole, though.
no, it wasn't. Like,
It was maybe like what, 2 feet in diameter?
yeah, we could probably fit into it if we had to get in there. But I'm saying, like, just to look in there and just say, holy shit. Like, I understand that's where it's fed from. But just think about all that
Like
water.
what's down there.
Yeah, just think about all the water that's in this lake, right? Because the big lake is that we go on is what, 2.5 miles?
2.5 miles long.
Is it?
Yeah.
Not 5, right?
Maybe it's
The big one's 5. The
the
little,
little
one's
one. Yeah.
2.5.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so there's a big lake that when we go up to, if you want to, I don't want to.
Well, they dammed it up. Yeah.
Right, so there's a big lake, 5 miles long, and there's a small lake, 2.5 miles.
Yep.
So think about that little hole that we saw, right? Like, because you said it's kind of small, which
Yep.
it is.
And it feeds the whole thing.
That feeds that whole thing. So what the hell is under there that could generate that much water?
I'll tell you, it's not the goddamn Loch Ness.
I'm not saying it's Loch Ness, but think about how much water, I don't know how many gallons are in those 2 lakes, right? And they have to dam it up, and they still, like, let out water.
Correct.
And that thing still feeds.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but all the rainwater collects too.
Come on,
I'm
man.
just saying.
where does all that come from?
I don't know.
And
Groundwater.
that much groundwater?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's why I'm saying, like, the cave thing could be plausible.
We should do an episode on caves.
I would love to.
Because your theory in aliens, Bigfoot, and now Loch Ness all revolves around caves.
No. I never said anything about aliens
Yeah,
or caves.
didn't you say aliens like lived off the coast of like California in the caves?
I never said that.
I think you did.
I mean, I said the Bigfoot could travel between caves. That's why we never see him. Or whatever you want to call it.
Jesus.
But this is more plausible to me because I was thinking about that and just saying, like, all right, where does this thing go? Or
Yeah, but
what?
they would find that on sonar scans of like an opening to a cave or something.
Maybe.
What do you mean maybe?
Maybe it's
Sonar.
like too deep, right? And it's underneath like a rock wall and you can get into it that way. Yeah, but how many times have they looked at, right? They said if they, took out the ocean, this would be like so much deeper than the actual Grand Canyon or
Oh, yeah.
stuff like that. So that's what I'm saying. It's plausible. And this is just a side note of just saying that this is plausible for some type of creature because we still haven't found, or I would say, how much percentage of the actual ocean have we explored?
I think what they say like 10%.
Yeah. There you go. 90% still unexplored. And what was it? 4 or 5 years ago, they found like some type of new species.
Yeah, they're finding new species like in the rainforest, in the oceans every day.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. This, as far as, like Nessie and everything,
Do you think Nessie exists?
no.
Okay, what do you think people are seeing then?
I think if a lot of it is misidentifications,
Yep.
like we talked about. And if you look at like the list in general, we could pull up the list and just what these people theorize some of this stuff is, right? just from, it could be bird wakes, boat
The one
bowls.
thought was funny, elephant.
Yeah, I don't.
What the fuck is that?
That was from the 70s. A California biologist put something out, like an article, just saying it could have been an elephant at the time.
I think
just
it's
sticking his
I think it's the
trunk out.
eel or the Greenland shark.
Yeah, those are two big things. The eel, which is large eel, was suggested early on, and eels are found in Loch Ness,
Correct.
and they're usually a large one. And like we said, we did catch one up at when we were in Mousom
That
Lake.
was freaky, man.
I remember pulling it up because they were like, "Oh, the line's still out." It was just on the dock.
Yeah, what happened was I was fishing like when it started to get dark out, and we went in for dinner, and then we started a campfire, and then by that time it was like maybe 2 or 3 hours later, and I was like, oh, I probably should go reel in my fishing pole, and as I started to reel it in, like I thought I had a fish in there, and it was like really pulling, and I brought it up on the dock,
That thing was disgusting.
and it was an eel.
That was pretty big too.
Yeah, it was. And did we put it in the fire or no?
I don't remember. I think so. But I just remember maybe that was an exaggeration because we didn't measure it. So maybe I thought it was bigger. It was night. Like same thing.
I would say it's probably like 2-3 feet long.
Our imagination could have been playing a trick on it. But that is a plausibility because they do scientists.
And you never see the eels in the lake that we go to.
No, you never do see them. So then that makes this theory more plausible, right?
Correct.
And a lot of people do say the Greenland shark is another theory. And that was investigated too in 2013. In the series River Monster, and they concluded it can, reach up to 20 feet in length. The Greenland,
and it can live in fresh water. So I think those two things are the most plausible explanations.
What about a catfish?
No, I don't. They don't grow that big.
Could it be like a living in a cave catfish?
I mean, if you're thinking about Bigfoot and a catfish, and
Yeah,
Loch Ness all in there.
A lot of other people say there's just different animals that live
yeah,
in the
you may
area.
not even know about.
Right, trees. There's misidentification of trees. Same thing with boat wakes, optical effects, illusions.
Yeah, I get that.
What about here? This is a big
gas?
thing too. The gases.
No, that's so stupid.
Why is that stupid?
Unless like it's bubbling up and like it creates like a big wave. Like it would just create like a little ripple.
Yeah.
It wouldn't create like that. I don't know. It wouldn't create that much. I don't think.
Which I think this is a great source and a tool if you really want to start and look at and research yourself on the Loch Ness Monster, just the wiki page, because it talks about just the different hoaxes, the theories, the plesiosaur is the big one, exotic large animal species that could be the log, there's so many different ones that people refer to as.
I mean, it is like, I will say this to wrap it up. It is plausible that there's something in there that we may not know about and we may not have discovered yet, because the loch is over 10,000 years old. It dates back that far, and then before that, in the last ice age, it was completely frozen. So, like, could there be something that's in there that we don't know about? Sure. But is it the Loch Ness Monster? I don't think so. I would love it to be the Loch Ness Monster because I like to believe in these things, but I don't think it is.
Yeah, I don't think it is either. I don't think the Loch Ness Monster really exists. Do I think it's like sexy and do I want it to believe in it? Yes, but at the same
Loch
time,
Ness Monster is sexy.
yeah, well, it's kind of one of those things.
All right, what do you think is more plausible? Bigfoot, Loch Ness, aliens. If you had to rank them,
Oh man,
or Jersey Devil.
I really love Bigfoot. Why do I have to rank them?
No, all right. Do you think the Jersey Devil or Loch Ness Monster?
Loch Ness Monster.
Okay.
Just because, like we said, there's only 10, 20% of the ocean that has been discovered.
Yeah.
And there's so much out there. Like another one of the case files that I think we should do, that flight that went missing.
Yeah, we definitely should.
Supposedly that's in the ocean, right, somewhere, and they haven't found that. So how can we maybe not or have found some creatures, right, or not find creatures because they could actually move, they could actually go somewhere.
Correct.
Whereas a plane, when it crashes, boom, it's just sinking.
Well, the only problem with that is they don't know where it crashed.
That's true. So, like, I would love to talk about stuff like that.
Well, I think people don't realize how big the Earth, the planet, really is.
No, because we only see a small sample of it, right? Think about when you're little, right? Your world is your house.
You think that's huge.
You think it's huge. And then all of a sudden you get to like you start school, and then your world becomes like your house, and then like your yard, and then now your school, and then the friends that you meet, right? And then all of a sudden you get a little older. Now you're going to high school and you could drive. So now not only is your house, your yard, and like your immediate town, but now you can go to other towns, and now you can go to other cities and all that crap, right? And it gets bigger and bigger. Now you get out of school, you're older, you're working, you're making your own money. Now you can go around the world. So like your world keeps getting bigger. And yeah, I think there's so many places on this world that I even step foot on, right?
Sure.
So how do I know they really exist?
That's true, yeah.
I don't know, man. Yeah, this one I think is really cool, and it holds a place in my heart just because I remember it from like third grade.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't think there's just too many hoaxes with this. And yes, there is the 1% that does exist. And I don't know how you really explain something like this,
I don't think you can. Some things just aren't explainable.
Yeah. And even with like the history, right? With all the history and the stuff that we can give people, as much information as possible.
I mean, at one time, probably in early history, there was probably a creature that they didn't know. It was probably a shark or eel. They didn't know, so they dubbed it the Loch Ness Monster. Yeah.
Right? It's just like, that's the same thing. I don't know if I ever told the story. Did I remember telling you the story?
What?
I mean, Mom probably told you a million times, where I just came running in and I was like, Mom, monster, or big bug. I kept saying big bug, not monster. I was like, Mommy, big bug, big bug.
What was it?
And Mom's like, what big bug, man? Just go outside. I was like, no, Mommy, big bug. You got to come out. I don't remember this. I mean,
Okay.
I vaguely remember.
What was it? A bird?
No, we can't. She finally came out. I guess she was like, what the hell is he looking at? Like,
Yeah.
And then she came out, and there was this huge turtle that made its way from in the bay
To our house?
Yeah, our house, and was like digging kind of its like nest.
That's awesome.
And she's like, "Whoa," because it was big. It was like bigger than me.
Yeah.
I think they took pictures of it. I don't know. We had to ask, but like stuff like that. So I was a young kid now, just seeing something, I could just say, "Oh my God, it's a monster! I can't explain it." I was calling this huge turtle.
Well, that's probably what it
a
was
bug.
back in.
Yeah.
You know what I also thought about the other day, which is I thought was kind of funny. It was, I don't even know how long ago this was. Probably when the original It first came out.
In the early 90s.
Do you remember going to like Evergreen Park and like following the creek? To where like the concrete like opening was, and
it was just like the movie.
Yeah, we looked in the hole.
Yeah, freaked ourselves out.
Yeah, freaked ourselves out and went running.
Yeah, I do remember that.
I don't know. I thought about that the other day.
Really? Just out of the blue, like, let's go check it out. Would you go back there now?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I do remember that because I remember watching the movie and just being freaked the hell out. And then all of us just went down with the creek, and we did follow that.
Yeah, we followed it all the way till like the cement, like, pipe hole that probably like was like the storm drain.
Yeah, from the shopping center. So it all leaked out into this one place.
And we looked in there, and then I don't know what happened. Maybe we heard something or whatever, and we all took off running.
Yeah, somebody probably screamed like, "Oh shit, it's there!"
Yeah,
and then I do remember that. But
Loch Ness, real or fake?
I think it's fake.
All right,
but I would like to believe it.
I want to believe.
I do want to believe, bro. Thanks for tuning in to this week's Case File 33 on the Loch Ness Monster. And check out the website, nightmare365.com, because all of our information is there. So if you want to contact us, let us know if you have a story like a Loch Ness Monster or anything like that. All of our information can be found there. We have all of our weekday weirds, our podcast shows, just information.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel because you'll see all the weekday weirds coming out every Wednesday.
Hell yeah, bro. What else? We got shirts, stickers. You want that? Support us any way you can to keep this podcast going, because it does cost a little bit of money.
Yes, it does.
To upload it every month. We get that little bill in the mail. Says, hey, you guys owe us money. You want to upload this amount? We got to keep paying. So help us out. But all of our information is at Nightmare, like Greg said. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Anything else, man? We got some good weekday weirds coming up.
We do. And thank you for listening.
Thanks a lot, everybody. And you know what to do every time. It is. Until next time,
stay spooky.